We are in a city that's called the sports capital of the world. This is the city of Melbourne, and I'll show you the reason why it is termed as the sports capital of the world. Where we are standing right now is the iconic Melbourne cricket ground. Behind me here is the Rod Laver Arena, where the first Grand Slam of every year, Australian Open, is played. Next to it is the John Cain Arena, where you will find a lot of basketball happening. Right next to it is Amy Park. That's also the football stadium, one of the venues of the 2023 Women's FIFA World Cup. In about 1.5 kilometer square area, 9 key sports are played. As you walk around the area, there are so many professionals and amateurs playing sports in this city, and this square kilometer area, the 1 square kilometer area that you see from here, is primarily the reason why Melbourne is called the sports capital of the world. Right behind me is the iconic Melbourne cricket ground. This is where the final of the T20 World Cup will be played on the 13th, and everyone hopes to see the men in blue lift the trophy here. They are calling it their Mission Melbourne, and this is where Mission Melbourne comes to a climax. 100,000 plus capacity, 100,024 seater stadium will be filled to the rafters. All tickets have been sold. Fans are hoping for Team India to make it here for Sunday's final. Right behind me, you see here the Shane Warne stand. There are many other stands you see here, and this ground is the 11th largest ground in the world. It's used for Aussie rules football in the winter months and for cricket in the summer.
It all started in 1838 when 8 men got together and wanted to play, 5 men got together and wanted to play cricket. And from those humble beginnings, we've got what we've got here today. Originally we had 4 different cricket grounds around Melbourne, and we keep losing the grounds because Melbourne was growing. So they asked the government for a grant of land, could be a permanent home for cricket. Bradman scratched his chin and thought and said, 70. And Sachin Tendulkar said, only 70. And Bradman said, well, it's not bad for a man aged 90. That's the most interesting one, is this first one. Normally there's a set of wickets down the bottom here, and let's say the batsman is having a problem with Bumrah. You know, he can't handle him. So he can come in, and on that screen we can have a moving image,
a simulator,
of coming in to bowl. Out that little hole, the ball will come at the speed that he bowls at.
It's a 5 minutes walk from the MCG to this place, the Rod Laver Arena, which is where the year's first Grand Slam Australian Open is held every year. There are 17 courts right now. This court right behind me was added earlier this year in 2022. The 2023 Australian Open is still a couple of months away, but there is a lot of activity. There's a lot of buzz around that. And let's hear what Todd Woodbridge had to say.
Well, I think the Australian Open always wants to have the very best players at its tournament because we provide the best facilities. We've always been at the forefront of delivering something new. And to do that, you want the best to be winning the tournament. And of course, this is really his favourite event, won it 9 times. So he wants to be back. We'd love for him to play. It's not really in the hands of the tournament itself, though. That'll come down to what our government decides that they want to do, and all of those things I'm sure are well underway, but we don't have that information.
This is Rod Laver Arena. This is where the gods and goddesses of tennis descend during Australian Open. And when there is no tennis, this gets converted into a concert venue.
For Norman Brooks, who was the first Australian player to win Wimbledon, and he's known as the grandfather of Australian tennis. Daphne Ackhurst won the tournament a number of times in the 1920s. She tragically passed away in her early 30s from an ectopic pregnancy, and the trophy was donated in her name by Tennis New South Wales, I think in the mid to late 30s. But they're both really beautiful and we craft replicas every year that the champions take away. So we're the only Grand Slam that routinely gives a full-scale, full-size replica to the champions.
It's the only Open that is played in the middle of the central business district. It is a walking distance from the Flinders Street station. The players love it. The players love 4 seasons in a day in Melbourne as much as we are loving it. At the sports precinct in Melbourne, this is Rika Roy for NDTV.